I decided to pull, and I'm doing a little bit of quote mining here, I suppose, but if you really want to know where these quotes come from, I can tell you the exact HTMLs, where they're actually located. The first quote, "The way we envision the world in our inner space manifests in the malleable energy of the outer world." So in other words, if we believe it, it's true, which anybody with a scientific background would, of course, scoff at that notion. The overall effectiveness and usefulness of animal communication is being proven every day by its growing popularity with the consumer. Perfect example of the bandwagon fallacy. Here's a good one. "Modern science tells us that anything that is observed is influenced by the observer, therefore making notions of scientific objectivity an elusive quest." So let's slag science right there. "Animal communication is not an empirical science offering 100% accuracy every time." Also slagging science. To the question, "Are you a psychic?" Here we go. "No, I do not make predictions about the future, nor do I read the animal in some inexplicable way." Because telepathy is completely explicable, apparently. "Animal communication is similar to turning on a radio and tuning into the station you want." Not exactly. "Animals also send messages in the form of metaphors." Metaphors? I don't think they know what a metaphor is. These messages can be transmitted in a variety of ways, such as pictures, words, thoughts, emotions, tastes, sounds, or smells. Next one, "What I do is from the heart, and I receive different information from each animal, so there must be room for broad interpretations." And to the question, "Can you talk to my animal while he is sleeping?" Yes, many animals, I have been told, have gone to sleep while I am talking to their person on the phone. Maybe our animals are smarter than we thought. So animal communicators often, you'll see on their websites, they'll offer these sort of, "I have a guarantee," these vague guarantees of stronger bonds and peace of mind, perhaps action plans for behavior issues. Action plans for behavior issues are quite available from animal trainers. It's not rocket science, but it's also not anything magical and mystical as well. Most also add a disclaimer saying that their services are not substitutes for proper training, nutrition, or veterinary care. What kind of veterinary care, you ask? Well, perhaps some of these people might suggest CAVM, complementary and alternative veterinary medicine. Some people may not have even known this exists. What does it take to be a real veterinarian? Well, one thing, it's very competitive. There are only 28 accredited schools in the U.S. It's 4 years of education, sometimes including an internship or residency for specialties. All vets must pass national and state board exams and participate in continuing education in order to get and keep their licenses. Veterinarians or doctors, they actually deal with much of the same biological structures, diseases, drugs, etc. that human doctors do, although they will say they have the problem of, their patients can't tell them what is wrong with them. So they're subject to local laws, they're answerable. These people are, they're licensed, they can be sued for veterinary malpractice, and most of them read or contribute to their professional community, such as the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association. Sorry for that typo. What does the American Veterinary Medical Association say, and I'm a writer by trade, and I can't believe I let that slip, say about complementary alternative veterinary medicine? From their website, they say, "The AVMA recognizes the interest in and use of these modalities and is open to their consideration. The AVMA believes that all veterinary medicine, including CAVM, should be held to the same standards. Claims for safety and effectiveness ultimately should be proven by the scientific method. Practices and philosophies that are ineffective or unsafe should be discarded." Exactly. Here's a longer quote from the AVMA. The AVMA believes veterinarians should ensure they have the requisite skills and knowledge for any treatment modality they may consider using. The AVMA does not officially recognize diplomate status or certificates other than those awarded by veterinary specialty organizations that are members of the AVMA, American Board of Veterinary Specialties, nor has it evaluated the training or education programs of other entities that provide such certificates. Recognition of a veterinary specialty organization by the AVMA requires demonstration of a substantial body of scientific knowledge. The AVMA encourages CAVM organizations to demonstrate such a body of knowledge, and so far they have not. Here's a list of the selected CAVM available to pet owners. You'll recognize a lot of this stuff. They do it on people.
Which one?
Prolotherapy. You know, I forgot what prolotherapy is. But I will, you know what it is? What is prolotherapy?
It's injecting, it's almost the definition of placebo, it's injecting fish oil and sugar into tendons.
Oh my God. Sounds delightful.
Sugar water.
Well, one up here that most people will not recognize is neoplazine. Neoplazine is actually, it's made by a company called Buck Mountain Botanicals. And it is marketed as, it's made from the bloodroot plant, and they market it as an alternative to chemotherapy in pets, particularly canines, and they said it can treat any kind of canine cancer. But I found this was interesting. This is taken a disclaimer straight from their website. We did not invent botanical medicines, and we do not recommend that the use of botanical medicines should be undertaken on the strength of our restatement of historical usage and documented research. So that right there is a perfect example of CYA for the CAVM. There's actually a man he has a blog called the SkeptiVet blog, Dr. Brennan McKenzie, who also contributes to the Science-Based Medicine website. He actually has a really good article about neoplazine on his SkeptiVet blog. Okay, so how does one become a certified homeopathic veterinarian, for example? This would obviously, a certified homeopathy not recognized by the American Veterinary Medical Association as a specialty. And then we have homeopathic dog. Well, from the website of the Academy of Veterinary Homeopathy, which is not recognized, of course. The Academy of Veterinary Homeopathy is the only certifying veterinary body in North America. The certification process begins by becoming a licensed veterinarian. So basically, if you see anybody practicing veterinary or alternative veterinary medicine out there, they can get in really big trouble because nobody can be a practicing veterinarian without being a licensed, certified, trained in a scientific school veterinarian first. Professional organizations promoting CAVM, well, there's, for example, the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association, the American Veterinary Chiropractic Association, and the American Animal Adjusting Association. And guess what? All of these are listed by quackwatch.com as questionable organizations. Well, that's my dog, too.
I wonder if the chiropractors and the adjusting associations have infighting.
Could be, you know. No, I'm a better cracker. No, you are. Fuzzy conspiracy theories. And that cat actually belongs to somebody in this room. So, what's the first one we hear? Vets are tools of big pharma. Well, who isn't a tool of big pharma? Vets are shills for the pet food industry, and this has a lot to do with this sort of burgeoning raw food diet movement. If you're familiar with that, if you want to be familiar with that, you can ask me, but I don't have time to explain it now. And then the last one, which is probably one of the dumbest but most timely ones. Vaccinations cause pet autism. Look it up on the internet, Google dog autism or cat autism, and yes, there are accusations of this out there. So, you know, how is a cat dog autistic? I don't know. So, final thought. The final thought of my talk is that we really need to sort of be aware of some of this other woo out there that we might not have thought of, and actually is quite commonly accepted by a number of people. But in the case of our pets, because they are so important to us, I think you should always use critical thinking and due diligence when it comes to decisions that affect your pet. After all, while we may love them, they are not always as skeptical as we'd like them to be. Any questions? Yes, Beth or Ellie, whichever.
I will start with a sort of story, which is that my vet, who I like my actual doctor very much, but their practice has a veterinary acupuncturist who, yeah. I mean, it's like she's actually a vet, but she also pushes acupuncture. It makes me really uncomfortable. And I don't, like, I haven't said anything, but I'm wondering if there are ethical, like, issues, and if the AVMA has a code of ethics, or, you know, for a licensed veterinarian to be selling a treatment that has no evidentiary base.
Well, basically in their statement, I mean, they say, they kind of dance around it, more or less. They have a code of ethics, and if you want to be, I mean, you're supposed to be following the veterinary code of ethics if you're a member of the AVMA, which pretty much all vets are. I mean, in order to be taken seriously, you need to belong to that professional organization. But you notice how the AVMA is kind of like, well, we understand people want to do it, but if it's bad, if it causes any, you know, injuries, or you know, causes damage to the health of pets, then you should seriously consider dropping it. I think the AVMA doesn't want to alienate certain people, and that's why maybe they don't take quite as strong a stand on CAVM as I think maybe they should be.
How does that contrast to the AMA?
I am not as knowledgeable in what the AMA is. Anybody familiar with the AMA's sort of official stand on CAM?
I think it's very close to the same.
Very close. So it's like, yeah, okay, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Of course, they could be indirectly hurting people by people actually, let's say, using neoplazine for your dog to treat its cancer instead of actually going out and getting some chemotherapy and saving its life. So, yeah, they're probably a little too wishy-washy for this crowd's tastes. Yes?
Have you looked into the dog whisperer at all? And or how much woo he uses? It seems like a lot of it is, he uses words like energy, but it seems like it could just be another word for the dog reading your body language. But,
he's a very controversial figure, actually, in the dog training world. The whole, you know, asserting the alpha kind of stuff. That most sort of people who are trained veterinary behaviorists and certain people who are into dog training, they're trained by like the American Pet Dog. Sorry, I happen to know more about dogs than cats, so forgive me if I skew dog. People who are trained by the American Pet Dog Training Association don't really like, not all of them obviously, but don't like the sort of, you know, telling you, you know, pushing the alpha stuff and this sort of idea of energy that he promotes. There's a lot of questionable things that he promotes, and you actually see, you know, a lot of, you know, sort of dog whisperer, horse whisperer. These people are sort of marketing themselves as something that's not a pet psychic when in fact it is. But the dog whisperer is not exactly a pet psychic. But yeah, if you go on read sort of critiques of Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, there are a lot. So, any other questions? I think a lot of people are anxious to eat. Thank you.